It seems like we're entering a period where nation states and other regulatory jurisdictions will begin consolidating in two different groups depending on their perspective on crypto. Some jurisdictions are trending toward a view of crypto as a lawless industry that needs to be reined in at all costs, while others are embracing crypto as the next technological frontier that should be won at all costs. Some countries will see crypto regulation as a way to avoid being in the race to the bottom, while others will embrace free market economics and acknowledge crypto as the next big technology gold rush. Ready? Let's go. Today, we're going to discuss the new UK declaration on crypto versus the recent stance of the EU versus what we've seen out of some more authoritarian regimes recently. We'll also discuss some interesting details on the upcoming Wing Riders decks, reports on a launch date for Djed from Coty, and a prediction from Caitlin Long about the US crypto industry splitting into 3 different camps. If you're an old-time gold prospector whose biggest weekly thread is Sasquatch Ambush, or if you just like these Cardano videos, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Today is one of those good news days, and this particular good news is coming to us out of the UK. Here we have an article at gov.uk. They say government sets out plan to make UK a global crypto asset. No, what is a crypto asset? It's like a crypto asset, but wears fancier clothes to the nightclub. No, a global crypto asset technology hub. The government has today announced moves that will see stablecoins recognized as a valid form of payment as part of wider plans to make Britain a global hub for crypto asset technology. There's some pretty big news in here, and I think it signals perspective and intent. And this is pretty huge. Moves that will see stablecoins recognized as a valid form of payment. That's huge. And this global hub for crypto asset technology, a lot of different jurisdictions will probably try to trumpet that kind of language, and they'll do so with varying degrees of sincerity. I think, given what they have in mind, I think there's quite a bit of sincerity here, or at least an attempt to actually carry this out. This stablecoin adoption is maybe not so cut and dry as we'd like it to be. Obviously, we'd love for it to be this binary on-off switch where all of a sudden they hit a switch and stablecoins are legal tender. But it sounds like more of a transitional play than that. They say stablecoins to be brought within regulation, paving the way for use in the UK as a recognized form of payment. Still, I love it. Any movement in that direction, love it. They say measures include legislation for a financial market infrastructure sandbox. And this is why I say this seems to be sort of a sincere attempt to turn Britain into a global hub for crypto asset technology. I think a sandbox, it may not sound like much, but if you provide a bit of a safe harbor for, as they put it, firms to innovate, If you give them a little leeway and you don't immediately slap them with regulatory violations, just give them a little bit of freedom. Give the crypto companies a little bit of a leash. Let them experiment a little bit. Let them show you how awesome crypto is, all the wonderful things that can be enabled by crypto. If you just give them a little bit of room, just a nice little sandbox, let them innovate a little bit and then look at how it goes. I think everybody's going to love it if you do that. Good move, UK. They say they're establishing a crypto asset engagement group to work more closely with the industry. Also great. They're actually working with the industry. We've heard Hester Peirce, US SEC commissioner, lately complaining that this was exactly what the SEC was not doing. They were not working with industry. They were just kind of dictating on high what they thought the rules should be. That was in the context of the SEC's tax or staff accounting bulletin about including, company-held customer crypto assets as liabilities on their balance sheets. They also say they're going to look at exploring ways of enhancing the competitiveness of the UK tax system to encourage further development of the crypto asset market. Again, I think this tells us a lot about approach and mindset. They don't say, hey, we think we're missing out on a huge amount of crypto taxes. We need to get stricter. We need to bring you lawless ruffians within the confines of the current system. No, they say we need to explore ways of enhancing the competitiveness of our tax system to encourage development of the crypto asset market. This goes a long ways towards intent, even if the actual regulations they come up with aren't 180 degrees from another jurisdiction. Just the fact they're approaching it like this, not how do we bring you guys within the confines of the law? It's more like how do we make our system more attractive to you to encourage development? This is great. I think this is exactly what we want to see from a jurisdiction. And in this piece, which kind of sounds like a novelty, but again, I think it signals intent. They say, and working with the Royal Mint on an NFT this summer as an emblem of the forward-looking approach the UK is determined to take. Again, they're actually participating in crypto things, crypto activities, minting NFTs. Why not? The best way to understand an industry is to actually take part in it. And it looks like the UK, via the Royal Mint, is actually going to take part in crypto. Wonderful. Here are a couple of finer points toward the bottom of the article that some people might gloss over, but I think are also pretty important. The government further confirmed that it will initiate a research program to explore the feasibility and potential benefits of using distributed ledger technology. I love the euphemisms. It's like you can't possibly say blockchain. You got to say DLT. That's the accepted euphemism. They will look at using DLT for sovereign debt instruments. This is wonderful. And obviously, I understand the technical distinction that distributed ledger technologies could take into account different types of crypto systems that aren't necessarily blockchains, because we've certainly got those too. But I think the important thing here is, again, they're not just looking at how can we control crypto? How can we rein in those crypto people? It's more like we want to encourage crypto, and not only that, we're going to participate in crypto. We already saw the NFT potential NFT minting by the Royal Mint, and here we see they're also going to look at the possible use of crypto for sovereign debt instruments. This is, again, great. This one down here, though, could go either way. They say it will review, the UK government will review, and the tax system will review how DeFi loans, where holders of crypto assets lend them out for return, are treated for tax purposes. So this could go either way. I think the next sentence hopefully can give us some hope that it's going to go in a good direction. The next sentence is, the government will also consult on extending the scope of the investment manager exemption to include crypto assets. So I'm guessing this is the exemption from the duty to license as an investment manager. So if crypto assets are included in the exemption, that's a good thing. So I'm hoping this previous statement about DeFi loans and them reviewing tax treatment, I hope that's because they want to provide more preferential tax treatment for DeFi loans, and not the thing that people would be afraid of. And that's recharacterizing the taking of a loan, being the borrower on a crypto DeFi loan, and a tax authority potentially recharacterizing that as a normal disposition of those assets. So what I'm saying is, it's possible that some tax authorities might come around and say, hey, we know you guys are just taking these loans as a way to cash out your crypto to avoid taxation. What we don't want them to do is recharacterize all crypto loans as an actual sale of the collateral used to secure those loans, because then whatever preferable tax situation you end up with because of that loan, that would obviously be could potentially be extinguished if those loans are recharacterized as normal sales of those cryptos. But this whole article does leave me with the impression that the intent of the UK is to attempt to become exactly what they say, a global hub for crypto asset technology and investment. This is great news for crypto. This is obviously the exact opposite of the approach we've seen from the EU. Sure, it's been in little isolated spots here and there, but what we can take away from what we've seen out of the European Parliament is that their approach is definitely, hey, crypto is outside the rules. It's a little bit of a lawless industry. We need to rein it in. We don't see them saying, hey, what can we do to make our tax system more attractive to crypto? What can we do to turn Europe into a global hub for crypto innovation? That's not what we see. What we see is we need to rein crypto in. This is the exact opposite of the approach conveyed by that UK article. And I mean, who knows? At the end of the day, these are always long bureaucratic processes of getting regulations passed, even discovering what direction they want to go in terms of regulation. We covered this EU Parliament new regime with what amounts to KYC for a lot of self-custody wallets. And it's still got to go through trilogues like we discussed when we covered this the other day. So things could change in the EU. But I think the kind of the rhetoric we see coming out of jurisdictions like the EU and the UK show a polar opposite approach. And the UK approach is obviously much more crypto friendly. In the US, it's much more difficult to gauge approach and mindset because we don't have unified regulation, as opposed to some jurisdictions where there'd be one entity regulating crypto. In the US, there might be dozens of different agencies regulating crypto, and they might all have a different approach to crypto. And in fact, that seems to be the case. But what we do know is that certain regulators, certain important ones like Gary Gensler, are definitely far more, maybe more so in the EU camp, maybe further than the EU camp in terms of them being welcoming of crypto or treating crypto like lawless ruffians who need to be confined within the regulations. Here we have an article just today from Yahoo Finance. SEC's Gensler wants crypto exchange regulation in 2022, and he's warning us about stablecoins. He warns on stablecoins instead of the EU, who is like, let's turn stablecoins, let's put them on the path to legal tender. Gary Gensler is warning you about stablecoins. He says, if the trading platforms don't come into their regulated space, this would be another year of the public being vulnerable. Again, this sounds very different than the UK rhetoric, doesn't it? He says, to the extent that folks are operating outside the regulatory perimeter but are supposed to be inside, we will bring enforcement actions. Which of these two approaches do you think is going to attract all the crypto innovation? The UK seems to have an abundance mentality toward crypto. Hey, crypto is a gold rush. Let's try to get as much of it in the UK as we can. Whereas the EU so far, and some of the US regulators, at least like Gary Gensler, seem to have a scarcity mentality. On the part of Gensler, the attitude is sort of like, hey, we don't want our investors losing money on crypto. What amount of money will be stolen from them via crypto? It's a scarcity mentality. But even the Gensler approach probably isn't as bad as the authoritarian approach, which is sort of like, yes, crypto is great. If by crypto, you mean the one cryptocurrency we invented and now solely control to enforce a dystopian future. Needless to say, the next few years are going to be interesting for crypto. Thank you to Grayskull for pointing out this new UK announcement. We also got a little information today from Wing Riders about how staking is going to work in their DEX. Apparently, ADA inside a smart contract is automatically staked on their DEX, and liquidity pool providers will receive rewards for this delegation. It's a fully automated process. The rewards are added back to the pool, increasing the value of the pool. This is interesting. I think given the ability to stake from a smart contract in Cardano, this is going to be a huge advantage over other blockchains. You could have your money locked in a DeFi platform in Cardano and simultaneously be earning that Cardano delegation return. This is a pretty big advantage. We already know that in platforms like Ethereum 2.0, you don't have self-custodied staking. You pretty much have to lock, unless you have a very large amount of Ethereum. What is it, 32 Ethereum, I think, something like that. unless you have a large amount of Ethereum, you have to lock your Ethereum with the stake pool. You don't have self-custodied staking like we do in Cardano. And in Cardano, it goes even further. Your ADA could be locked up in a platform and you can still get the staking reward. This is a huge advantage for Cardano. We already know that Ethereum 2.0 is a slashing system. They enforce good behavior by slashing the delegation. So they can't have your delegation tied up in some random smart contract somewhere. They need it to be locked in the stake pool so they can slash it to enforce good behavior. Obviously, that's not the case in Cardano. We don't have slashing as a part of our proof of stake system. And in the Wing Riders DEX, where apparently you will be able to stake from within the smart contract as an LP, as a liquidity provider, you'll even get the opportunity to vote on where that ADA is delegated. It goes without saying at this point that I'm going to relentlessly campaign for you to vote to delegate with the army of spies. I know a lot of you are waiting for Djed, so be aware on March 28th, Shahaf Bar Geffen, CEO of Coty, put out this video where he said they're going to get the testnet up this week. He said that on March 28th, so that's last week, that week, or the next week, which is this week. So I think we should be seeing a Coty Djed testnet, or I should just say a Djed testnet this week. We'll see. That was first reported by the Coty Hype account. I didn't know there was such a thing, but apparently there's a Coty Hype account. Finally, here's Caitlin Long with what I think is a rather sad but probably accurate reality these days. She says, yep, I believe the US crypto industry will split into 3 camps. Number 1, those who are trying to avoid regulation and might be able to do so if they're truly decentralized. Number 2, those who give lip service to getting regulated, but are actually trying very hard to delay being regulated. And number 3, those that are embracing regulation. They are trying to do the right thing and be regulated, but are getting the Heisman. So this is a reference, if you're not familiar with American football, this is a reference to the Heisman Trophy, where one player is running with the ball and he sticks out a stiff arm to stop the player who is coming to tackle him. That is the Heisman pose. She's basically saying the companies in the third camp are running toward regulation, and the regulators like Gary Gensler are doing nothing but stiff arming them to keep them from actually being regulated. I think this is probably pretty accurate because it's very difficult to be regulated if no one will tell you what the regulations actually are. And I think that's actually a result of the fact that the regulators don't know what the regulations are. I think they don't really know how to regulate DEXs and crypto lending platforms and synthetic platforms and all these things. I mean, I think they know what they want to do. Like Gary Gensler knows what he wants to do with a lot of these types of platforms. But I think most policymakers don't actually know what's going to happen. What will end up being the rules as to these platforms? I think nobody really knows. I think a lot of the friction and conflict is going to happen because a lot of projects in crypto, they really think they're in not just camp number 1, but camp number 1 who succeeds because they're truly, in air quotes, truly decentralized. But I think the Gary Genslers of the world are going to kind of storm in, and they're going to have a very different list of who's truly decentralized and who is not. I think that's going to result in a lot of conflict in crypto in the coming years. Hope you're having a great week, and I will talk to you tomorrow.